Oh, we're live.
All right. Tweet out.
How do I watch us live?
If you go to mash those
Here.
buttons, you should be able to click on it.
How do I watch us live?
If you go to mash those
Here.
buttons, you should be able to click on
Yeah,
it.
and I posted the link in the Discord.
Awesome. Just retweeting the tweet, and then we'll start this up. All right. Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded BlizzCon Edition, brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic, TBC, and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazin' Bob, and today we are joined by Mel, aka Melarita. How you doing?
Oh, I'm wonderful. It's been an exciting couple days.
It definitely has. We're also joined by Yip, aka Cognitive Pit. How you doing, Ryan?
Yes, hello. I am Yip. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Well, thank you for coming. I mean, honestly, this is all of our shows, so I didn't have you. You have me, and I have you. We have each other.
No, I receive a personal invitation to every individual podcast.
Same.
I never know when I'll be cut or not.
Oh,
Mel
no,
and I are
not
fighting for
even true.
rankings.
Oh,
This is
man.
performance based. Yep is definitely at the bottom of the food chain here.
Oh,
So we're recording at a different time than usual because we wanted to take in all of the BlizzCon stuff first. So we're recording on a Sunday instead of a Friday. We're also streaming on a brand new platform. We're on YouTube now, and that's probably going to be the way it's going to be going into the future. So if you want to catch us live, please do so. YouTube.com/mash those buttons, and make sure you click the bell so you know whenever we're going live. All right, so first off, we're going to get into some housekeeping. We'll quickly hit on what we've been doing in WoW lately because we've actually been playing a ton, and then we will go into all of the crazy BlizzCon news, and that's going to be the show. There's a lot coming up, so strap in, get ready, and forgive us for our wrong opinions. So first off, we have we have an old review from Canada. No new U.S. reviews this week. You want to take that away?
yeah. So here's a non-US review we missed from a while ago from Lumendai89, first-time listener. Really enjoyed your podcast and thanks for a great interview with Salve. Now, keep in mind, I believe this is after our first interview with Salve Dali, so a little late on, on the review, but thank you so much for leaving the review. I'm also really stoked that we're streaming on YouTube now because now I can unironically say, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that bell notification. See when we upload.
Heck yeah. And it's just, I don't know, YouTube, I just like it more, and I like the way you can tag everything in streams, but we're not going to get into that. I just like it more, and we're moving to YouTube, so make sure youtube.com/mash those buttons. All right, guys, what have you guys been doing lately in WoW?
Well, we raided. That's the norm. We also held. I'm just gonna include this in what we've been doing in WoW since we don't really have a place to talk about it later. We had a little party. We had a little party in Vargflocken. So on Friday for the kind of BlizzCon opening ceremony, a lot of people got together. Um, we got pizza for people, especially the people who showed up to my Gar binding runs. I bought some pizza. We got kind of drunk. We watched some BlizzCon. We had some fun giveaways. So Kim, as we bring up before, donated some stuff like bottomless bags that we were giving away every hour to keep the party going. We played Jackbox. It was a really fun time. We kicked back and we watched BlizzCon and did some other fun activities outside of WoW as well too. And it was just a really good time. I would recommend it to guilds to have kind of these outside nights. You get bonded by yelling at each other over Jackbox.
And Among Us and Cards Against
Among Us.
Humanity. Me and Mel went to Josh Corbett's reaction party or whatever you would call it, and it was kind of like a podcast, but it was definitely noisy and a little bit crazy. Josh kept pushing us to drink more, and I rose to the challenge and drank maybe a
Yes, you
little
did.
too much. Came to the guild party afterwards and played one game and was like, I need to lay down. So I laid down for 2 hours, got back up, and then joined the party again. It was still going. We had a blast all night into the wee hours of the morning. It was really
He
cool.
was stumbling around behind me before, like right after we finished like watching the first part of BlizzCon. He's like stumbling around, and I was like, "What is wrong with you?" Like I didn't even think that he had gotten that drunk. I was just like, "What is wrong?" And then I realized, and then I saw him passed out on the couch, and I was like, "Okay." And we kind of switched spots, right? Because he passed out for a couple hours, and then by the time he got up and he wanted to join in again, I was like, "Okay, well, I'm ready for bed now, so you have
They
fun."
tag teamed the party.
Yeah.
I feel like I kept holding my breath during the announcements, and so that's why the alcohol hit me faster. But I don't know. It
Oh,
was
uh-huh.
it was
That's definitely it.
it was pretty rough. But then in WoW, what I've been doing is I've been working up professions on my warrior. I got 300 blacksmithing, and I've also been working up mining on one of my other characters and saving the mats required for jewel crafting. I've almost got everything that I need to get 300 jewel crafting on whatever character I'm going to do it with in TBC. So I've been kind of prepping and doing that and doing a little joining of the Psycho PvP squad, which Yip joined into a little bit last night, which was pretty fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
kept
I
getting ganked in where was I? Fairless. It literally happened 3 times, so I told the guild there's, like, 6 people on their way to come help me, and then they're nowhere to be found anymore after that, and I was like,
Uh,
"I'm
it
sorry,
was
guys."
it was Fellwood. I get those two mixed up also.
Oh, yeah, 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 Fellwood. But it's fine, we found our own PvP to go
yeah,
hang
we
around doing.
like ruined everyone's day for a few hours instead. We sought out the PvP and in raid this week I picked up Severance. I think that was this week. So I switched to Arms Spec to do some PvPing after Thursday and like Severance switching to Axe Spec Arms with Severance is just like plus 7% crit just from the weapon and it's absolute mayhem. So it's been a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
pretty sure everybody was really annoyed because Yip would kill people before anybody would even be able to, like, get a dot on them. We are like, "Yip,
Yeah, he
come
was just
on!"
like they would just delete if they didn't have gear. It was boom.
Yeah.
What just happened?
Which is what I like to do. Like, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I wanna play a high level, PvP." I wanna go fight people who are, like, half naked, they're bots and half their gear is broken, and I wanna one-shot them. That's that's how I wanna spend my time.
You were definitely a madman last night, just on a mission to kill whatever you could. It was pretty
Yeah.
funny.
I was seeing red all night.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
man, but and
Yeah.
also for that game night, huge shout out to Wicked. He was a listener that joined our guild, and he ran the games all night and was just a really good game master.
Yeah, he was the
Yeah, I
master
don't
of
know how
games
he
all
did
night,
that.
it helped. Yeah.
He must not have had as much to drink as everybody else, 'cause I don't
Yeah.
know
He
how
kept
he
he
did
kept us all he kept all of us together and, made sure we were able to actually play some games.
that. Oh,
It was definitely pretty cool.
yeah, I know, for me, I've been working up herbalism and alchemy on my druid because I realized that I didn't have herbalism on my druid, which was a really poor choice because that's who I'm gonna wanna herb on, and I need to get rid of herbalism on Mel Arena because I raid on Mel and don't do much else, so I'm really never out in the world finding herbs. Um, but yeah, that's been fun and interesting. I had totally forgotten that you could herb in travel form. Like you didn't have to get out of travel form to herb,
Oh,
which is just
okay.
amazing. So I can just like run, and if I see like 4 in general area, I just put travel form on and herb, herb, herb.
Yeah, the TBC prep, and we're gonna talk more about TBC, but the TBC prep is you really do have to pay attention to what your characters have this time because it's gonna be pretty easy to have some alts. I think most people are gonna have a couple alts, and professions are a much bigger deal in TBC than they are in
Yeah.
Classic. In Classic,
Yeah,
all
for
the like
gear.
all the crafting professions in Classic are like virtually worthless. They have like cooldowns, but like blacksmithing has like it's nice to have blacksmiths. Maybe you want a guild blacksmith, but personally being having blacksmithing, it doesn't actually benefit you very much, but all that changes come TBC.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was a time when blacksmithing was good, when the Arcanite Reaper was good and stuff like that, like early in the game. But in
Same with like
TBC,
tailoring. You could make like your true faith vestments that you had to be a tailor to
Yeah.
yeah,
wear. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of like,
yeah, in TBC there's quite a bit, and the gear that you get lasts you, is, from what I understand, like well into tier 5. So
Yeah, that's because they some like that you especially for like blacksmithing. I don't know for every different profession, but for blacksmithing you like upgrade your items so you start out with like a base 70 epic and then you're upgrading it and it takes some raid items to upgrade even
yep.
further. So it does have some longevity to it. And then like jewel crafting, you get special jewels, enchanting, you get special ring enchants. So like there, you know, choosing your professions matters a lot more. So it's nice and I enjoy that.
All right, well, I think there's even been more I've been doing in WoW, but we're gonna move on to more important things. Let's move on to the news. So TBC announced, and they also during that announcement announced that paladins and shaman or blood elves and draenei will be available during the pre-patch. This was something we weren't sure about. It was something that I had said, why not? The only reason was lore, but like there's no pay gate, or at least now we know there's no pay gate, but there was a pay gate back in the day. That's why they didn't let you have them, but why not let you have them now so everybody can jump in? What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's huge. It would have been like it's exactly like you said. Other than preserving like the no changes thing, there really is zero reason not to let people level paladins and shamans earlier. I mean, I mean, it creates like a false barrier to entry that it'll be a lot harder for raids to fill up on those particular classes, which like if you want to do that, that's fine. Like I can see some merit in it being like, okay, well, if Alliance, if you want shamans, you're gonna need to help these people level up and then get them gear, and you're all gonna be behind. But like, why do that? There's
right.
no real
I think
reason to do that.
it would just push boosting like a ton more, right?
Yeah.
I think it would just say, forget the leveling experience, just get up as quickly as you can, no matter how you do that. And I don't think that's helping preserve anything in the game. That's just trying to min max so that you can get caught up to where you needed to be.
Yeah, this is the first of many things that they announced that make you feel a little bit better about how Blizzard's handling Classic. Because it's a change like that. This is, I mean, it's they didn't have to do it, and it is
Right.
going. I sometimes mention like active and passive changes. This is like an active change. They could have let things slide, and no one can really get that mad at them for it because
Right.
it's like just how the things used to work. But actively making a change like this that benefits people is really nice to see. So I'm glad that they're doing that. I think a lot of people are going to be getting shamans up on Alliance side during that time.
Yeah.
Shamans are awesome. So it's going to be an insane rush of leveling when the pre patch comes out.
Yeah,
I think
and
my biggest takeaway from the entire BlizzCon announcements is that I feel like they truly learned a lot from how Classic went. And
Yeah.
I think they saw the things that they did well, they saw the things that could have been better, and it might have been too late to change them in the Classic era, but I think that they have learned from that and applied it to Classic TBC, which makes me really happy.
well, and now that you're saying that, my biggest takeaway from the show is I actually felt like part of the show. Like last year, I felt like we were the redheaded stepchild, and oh, you're one of those people, okay, this year, I feel like WoW Classic got front and center stage right with retail WoW, and that felt good. It felt like, they did the Q&A and they had 3 classic devs and 3 regular devs, and they were getting almost equal questions, and I thought that was really cool. That this was way more. I really was kind of getting scared that it was just going to be the little intro during opening ceremony and that was it. We were going to get like maybe a couple questions answered, but that was it. And it turned out to be like they're taking us seriously, and that felt good, Blizzard. So I
I mean,
definitely appreciated that.
last week we talked about it. We were like, there's nothing on Classic. We're just not going to get anything. Like we were very much in the train of this is going to suck.
Yeah, they really prove themselves that they do understand that there's a big market here of players who some only exclusively want to play classic with them. And it did feel I was worried that it was going to be like, okay, here's retail and here's like, here's your pity classic. But instead, I mean, it felt more like they're like, okay, yeah, okay, retail, retail, retail. Are you burning for the Burning Crusade? Like they're like they could tell that the hype was really around the Burning Crusade and not the other stuff. I mean, they didn't even mention. I mean, not to throw anything under the bus, but I don't even think they mentioned like Overwatch on the opening ceremony.
They
And then
didn't.
they gave a ton of time to Classic, which was awesome. So it definitely felt good. I think everything that they showed and talked about and how they talked about it, it was a nice relief that it seems like they're taking it seriously. They talked about how they understand that there's sort of 2 paths. There's the retail and then there's classic and there's 2 separate games, and it really felt that way, which was good.
Do we want to kind of hit on? So basically, there's a little confusion, at least for me. I don't know if it is for other people, but there's a little confusion on the character cloning process. Now, when I first heard this, I I took it as everybody's going to TBC. If you want to pay for a clone to Classic Era, you can do that. But then I was corrected by a nice gentleman named Nobody. I wasn't corrected by Nobody. I was corrected by the nice gentleman named Nobody, that it's going to give you a choice. At
Yeah.
least from the way we're reading, it's going to give you a choice to go to Classic Era or to the Burning Crusade. And then after that, you could choose to clone to one or the other during the pre-patch time, but it's only going to take the snapshot that was snapped right as the pre-patch hit. So no matter what you
Right.
do in that time period, you're still going to get that character that was snapshotted that day of patch drop.
Correct. And it'll be patch drop, you log in, and it's each individual character. The first time you log into each individual character on your account, it'll give you an option. Switch to or go to classic era server or progress with TBC. And that's the only time you have to make that choice. And yes, you can go to another one, but I know there's a lot of speculation that people can just pass around items to get cloned, and everybody in the guild has a trillion golden items that they have. But I don't even think that's an option because as soon as you log in, you have to make that choice.
Yeah, so the snapshotting all happens at the same time. So there were people who were concerned that you could choose when to snapshot your character. So you could give all your gold to one, your all 40 people could give all your gold to one person, snapshot, give it to the next person, snapshot. But it's all snapshotted at the same time when the servers are down, and then that's it. There's no there's nothing
Yeah,
else going on. So and then yeah, so you only pick classic or you pick TVC, and then you can pay in order to do both. And I think that most people are going to move to TVC and then pay if they want to pay. I think what it comes
right.
down to, and I think that's what they want to happen. It's sort of more of like a revenue generator than anything else, because I don't know how big the population is of people who just want to keep playing Phase 6 forever.
Yeah, and
Yeah, and
see,
that's the thing. It's not refreshed server on
Yeah.
classic. You just stay where you're at on classic, which sounds, I don't
phase
know, kind of crazy
six
to me.
forever. But
Yeah, who
yeah,
wants to stay there?
my biggest fear when people were asking for clones and for copying, my biggest fear was that everybody's going to copy because why not? Like if I have the choice to copy, I'm going to copy and then log into that character maybe once every 3 to 6 months for 10 minutes just to look at my old gear and be like, ah. But like I think it's smart to put it behind a paywall, and that's something I hadn't even thought about for them to generate extra money. Which them generating extra money, as long as it's not in a way that's bad for us, it's good for us because it's going to get more devs on the game. It's going to get more priority on WoW Classic, and if you put a pay gate there, people are going to think before they actually have their character there. It's not going to be like, oh, well, I'll just do it to do it. Like they're going to really actually want to stay there, which will be healthier for the servers at the time. Now, the way I guess we understand this is every server is going to have two copies. Like it's not going to like throw people in the classic era to this other server. I guess like later on down the road, they're going to like possibly merge those. I'm not sure how that's going to
I
work.
think that the classic era servers are gonna end up merged. I don't believe that they're doing like white main TBC, white
Classic
main
and
classic.
TBC.
I think what they're doing is white main is classic TBC, and then if you want to copy your character over, you copy it over to a designated set of classic era servers. I don't think it'll be one classic for every TBC.
So if I want to work up a new character in Classic after this launches, if I work them up in Classic, I won't get that option to move to TBC, correct? I
When
will
are you doing it? When are you working them up?
say like after the snapshots have been taken, after everything, you start a character in Classic era servers, they're stuck in Classic era servers to my
Right.
knowledge.
Yeah, you would want to you would only be yeah, that would be you'd only be playing classic era if you do that, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I understand it as well. Well, we were talking about paladins and working up during. Well, we are talking about blood elves and dry and I working up during the pre-patch. Well, I'm just gonna skip over into just the 2.3 stuff really quick, just to or 2.4.3, just to talk about that. Basically, when pre-patch hits, we're going to the 2.4.3 rules. It's not going to be 2.0 or 2.0.1 or whatever. It's going to be the rule set balance changes from 2.4.3. So that means mounts at level 30. That means the quicker leveling and upgraded zones. Like Swamp of Sorrows has a whole bunch more quests now. The XP leveling is faster. I think someone broke it down early on and said that in TBC, working from 1 to 60 was more like working from 1 to level 52 in Classic. So your last eight levels is a huge chunk of time. So that's actually a
Yeah.
really big bump. And so I think, and that's also going to come with the AOE rules. So these Draenei and Blood Elves are not going to be getting boosted by mages. So I think gives chance for everybody to run dungeons the real way once again for a short time, which would be kind of neat.
Yeah, I mean, there will be other boosts going on, I'm sure, like, people are already boosting, um so in my day and time of boosting, you would level to 15, get boosted in stocks, get boosted in Scarlet Monastery, get boosted in Maradon, and then, like, maybe Strat or ZG after that as well too. Now people are doing just, like, the single target boosts where you have people outside of a party with 60s, you tag mobs and then the 60 murders them, and it gives them like a ton of XP to do it that way. So I think we're just going to see more weird boosts like that going on, like out in the world. But yeah, you won't just be sitting in Maradon doing nothing the whole time anymore.
Yeah, it's gonna be a cool time, and I think we're gonna see a lot of population come back because I'm even gonna work up a shaman. Like I don't know how far I'll work them up, but just for fun, like I'd like to see the dry and ice starting area, which I never got to see back in the day. So that'll be neat for me. I think it'll be neat for a lot of people, and yeah, it's just gonna be it's gonna be pretty crazy.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts on it being 2.4.3? I personally expected that. Like, I didn't think they were going to do a patch progression. I think that's like it's too many moving parts. Um, do you have any thoughts about it being 2.4.3?
Yeah, initially I did want it to go patch by patch, but then when I did all my research on the auction house, I actually read patch by patch, and you wouldn't believe the amount of class changes that go on throughout TBEC. I mean, it's astronomical. Whereas in vanilla WoW, like when the patches hit, like it usually was like, this is the paladin patch, this is the mage patch, this is the warrior patch. But for TBC, they're changing so many classes each patch, and each like not even it's not even just major patches. It's like all the patches in between too. I think it would really confuse a lot of people going through TBC if we didn't start later. Also, there would still be boosting in the beginning. There would also still be world buffs until either 2.1 or 2.2. I can't remember when they made those only work on 63 mobs or lower, and it would just be too much. So I think I've changed my opinion on that, and I'm kind of happy with the 2.4.3. What about you, Mel?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we didn't do that, we'd just go through all the things that they had to learn at the beginning of TBC to correct things, and there's no reason for them to do that again, right? You'd be playing on a patch where they're like, "This wasn't right, this was stupid, but let's do it again just 'cause."
Yeah, and what I really wanted it for was our arena seasons, and I'm not totally convinced anymore that those are completely figured out. I think that it's very possible that those are not, and people are going to find some new NX, and exciting comps and talent specs.
Yeah, they're gonna find some interesting stuff. They did come out and say they are for sure not doing any class tuning, which I think was sort of my ideal world where you have it on 2.4.3 because there are things that they learned over time in BC. I think the biggest one to me was when we were talking about how resilience didn't work for like the dot damage reductions right away, and I was just thinking like there are so many things that they changed that they were fixing mistakes. Like they realized like, oh, whoops, resilience should be doing this instead. And to go through the patches and feel like those mistakes and things they wanted to correct doesn't make sense. But for me, the meta changes were the biggest things I was interested in. So I thought a way to work around that would be some class tuning, just some minor stuff, make some of the worst classes better, things like that. It sounds like they're not going to be doing that at all. I think that's fine. 2.4.3 again, it's going to be the cleanest patch, and they did decide that they're going to the actually phase the raids, which I think is also another huge benefit. If they
Oh
didn't
yeah.
do that, I think I'd be more upset. But they are going to be phasing every tier of content, which is really awesome.
Well, now that you bring that up, let's just go ahead and talk about that. I've I've got this stuff all
That was
over the
huge.
place. Yeah, so I've got to
Yeah.
find this link here for the actual phases. You
Yeah,
guys,
I have it open here, and so there are going to be 5 phases
well,
this
hold on.
time.
Real quick before that, just to let you know, Yip, I have the newest one. They changed this day two after so many content
Mm,
creators came out. Initially, phase one was going to have no arena season. Phase two
yeah,
was going to be season one. Then phase three, season two. Phase four, season. Uh, uh, you know, like it was
Right.
basically yeah. So they actually made a change. So do you want to tell them what that change was, or do you have it up?
that's just the arena season, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The so phase one. So phase one initially is the original 8 dungeons. Kara, Girl's Lair, and Magtheridon, which is basically the tier 4 stuff, exclusively the tier 4 stuff. And then, like you said, so they kind of retcon what they said. Originally, there was no arena in phase 1, right? That was like the big deal that everyone was upset about, which I think makes sense. It's a little crazy to not have arena in phase 1.
Well, yeah, and then just the like the loot in PvE just didn't match up the way they initially announced the arena seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
then you'd again be stuck in this position where you had to do PvE in order to be good at PvP, which I don't think should be the case.
Well, you're still gonna have to do a little bit of PvE
Oh
for
yeah,
PvP
but
to be the best, depending on class. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, but it's minor overall. There are like it's like those sort of things matter a lot when you're talking about somebody who's in like the top 1%. I think a lot of people who maybe have like the wrong race might be worried about, like, for me, I'm not a gnome warrior, so it's easy to go in an arena and be like, "Oh, I'm not a gnome. It's going to hold me back a lot." Your actual skill and ability to play makes a much bigger difference up to, the over
right.
2K part than like the minor the minor things that give you an edge over
You're
people.
not gonna be bottom of the barrel because you're not a gnome.
Exactly, yeah, so and it's like that with the or PvE stuff that you can bring into PvP. The best of the best are gonna be doing both, but, with Arena in Season 1, like, if that's the only thing you're interested in, you'll be able to get away with it, at least.
yep, and so then like this is what like the phases for PvE is what we were asking for. Initially,
Yeah.
I heard them wrong and thought they were saying all of tier like it was just going to come out the same way it did, but then later on it got clarified, at least for me, and like phase 2 is going to move into the Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep. Then do you want to do the rest of this one? Yep.
Yeah, yeah, so for me personally, the first I heard the same thing. I thought they said that the only phase difference was gonna be like, the second phase would be Mount Highjaw and Black Temple, but then everything else would come out together, but there is the phase 2 that has SSC and Tempest Keep. Phase 3 is gonna be Battle for Mount Highjaw and Black Temple, and then originally Highjaw was available from the start, but if you play TBC, you know that you really couldn't get there right away anyway, so it's not that big of a deal that it's phased. Phase 4 will be Zolomon, so this is just like phase 4 being ZG in Classic, where it's not gonna be like
Lovely.
the biggest content patch. So maybe a little worried about a lull in content during that period.
Well,
But
there's
then phase 5,
also oh sorry, you finish up and we'll talk about arena after.
yeah, and then phase 5 will be the release of the Isle of Keldonis, Magister's Terrace, and the Sunwell Raid, which all makes sense. Magister's Terrace did come out with Keldonis because that's where it is located. So that all adds up. I think that this is a really strong overall. But you had mentioned that there's no arena season for phase 4. Um, so that is a big thing as well too. I think that just makes us assume that phase 4 will be short or be like in
Yeah.
between phase 3 and phase 5, but actually won't take up any time of its own. That's what I would assume.
Yep. I was
Yeah, that's what
thinking initially phase 5 might be partly 4.5 where they release the Isle of Quell Danas but don't release Magister's Terrace or Sun
Mhm.
or Sunwell, just to like give people the dailies a little bit early. But I don't know if there's any gear in there that would help with the arena season 3, which will still be going on during then. So
Yeah.
so like they definitely have room to like do point fives in them here. So that'll be something we watch going forward. But probably phase 4 will just be kind of short and sweet, would be my guess.
Yeah. So the big thing with these phases, for people who maybe don't fully understand, originally phase 1, 2, and 3, there was a fear that basically all of that was going to get released right away early on.
Yeah,
And
right
what would
on
happen is
launch.
the best of the best, we're going to have a huge gap between the more casual players or even average guilds that would really take a lot of fun out of the game. You'd have people
mhm.
raiding this like end game stuff right away while you're stuck doing your Karazhan. So the whole thing would have felt really bad with that huge gap. people would be pushed to be doing so much right away as well too. Like if you're in that middle ground of like we're like a above average guild, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well we have to make this push for the highest end content right away.
Right.
But this will give us some
Burnout would be
breathing room.
real.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
that
gonna
would
give
be
us a lot
huge.
of breathing room. You'll be able to level alts. You'll be able to do the stuff that you want to do out in the world without feeling like everything else is consuming you. You'll have Arena 1, you'll have Karazhan, Girl's Lair, Magtheridon's Lair. That's probably a one night raid night for most guilds. So that sort of stuff I think is really strong.
Yeah,
It's
you'll have
really,
the
really good.
new BG Eye of the Storm. You'll be able to do
Yeah.
BGs, and
Eye
it
of the Storm
was
being one of the best BGs ever created, by the way.
it is pretty cool. And
I don't remember Eye of the Storm. What is it like?
it's all purple, and there's a flag in the middle.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
flag in the middle and you cap it in 4 different points.
Yeah, there's 4 different bases you can control by being there. I forget if there's a flag inside each of
Like
the
a Wrathy
bases.
Basin?
I think it's like a Wrathy Basin, but you have to control it while nobody's in there, I believe is how you
Yeah,
actually
you
cap the
control
towers.
so you control the 4 points. So it's like a Arathi Basin, but there's a flag in the middle that you're trying to also bring back to the points you control. And the more points you
Uh,
control, the more points you get overall, and then the more points you get per flag turned into, I think.
Yep.
So it's like
I
you
remember
control.
liking it, I just don't remember playing it.
It's really fun. I think it's like way more interactive than the current battlegrounds that are out, and it's just really enjoyable.
Yeah, I remember vividly how like hard Mel would just giggle when she would mind control people off of this off of the center platform.
I mean,
Yeah,
what's
it's
more fun than that?
pretty
Not a
Uh,
much
lot.
nothing in the game.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, really.
well, and also talking about the phases and how the content's going to come out. Something that a lot of people asked for. I'm not sure at this point that it's a good idea, but I personally am excited about it. Is we're getting pre-nerf raid bosses, so it's gonna be
Yeah.
those really tough bosses. I'm excited about it. But I often wonder if the success of Classic was because it was so accessible early on.
I don't know. I feel like rolling through the content in Classic is one thing. Continuing just to roll through content in TBC, I think would just get boring. And I think everybody, at least in my opinion, I've enjoyed Nax because it wasn't such a we go in and demolish everything and move on to the next thing, right? Like it meant more, I guess. And I think that's what I'd like to get from TBC.
That's definitely what I want too. I'm just worried about everybody because I know population has dwindled with Nax, but it also could just be the price of Nax and not really the difficulty of Nax that pushed people away. And so I'm hoping that now that we'll go back to using way less consumes in TBC, that people enjoy the difficulty and not the difficulty to find enough time to prep for each raid.
I mean,
Yeah,
less
progressive.
consumes, no world buffs, and also it's 25, not 40 people. Like finding 40 people that were willing to wipe and progress is a lot harder, I think, than it's going to be to find 25 people.
Yeah, I think alongside the uh actual having different phases for this content, it's gonna make a huge difference because instead of it being, okay, MC's out forever, everyone's doing MC pretty much, and we just we just run it week after week, you'll still have a discrepancy between the best guilds and the worst guilds. You'll have people who are struggling on some of this content, and then you'll also have the people who can clear it. But the phases actually give you time to do it. So we weren't that concerned with how quickly we down Nax. We wanted it down as quickly as possible, but we were stoked whenever it happened. If it happened 2 weeks earlier, it wouldn't have really made a difference if it happened 2 weeks later, as long
Right.
as we had the people to do it. And that's sort of how these are going to feel as well too. It won't be like, oh, let's speed run, let's speed run. We got to get Kel'Thas down as soon as Tempest Keep comes out. He's got to get downed. You're going to have guilds across the spectrum who are in different phases of progression, which I think is like that is a much more classic experience to have guilds
Right.
that are, it's interesting to see the recruiting happen for Nax where some guilds are 15 of 15, some guilds are 12 of 15, and you have these different guilds on different sort of levels that you can differentiate a little bit better. I think it'll be more like that. It'll be more like Nax. But again, yeah, the cost is going to be way different. Most people are going to be popping flasks, and those persist through death. So really, you're paying for your food buff every
Right.
life pretty much, and then your potions, and then you're good to go. And I think that that's going to make progression really a lot of fun. I think TBC is going to be really fun for rating because of the way they're doing this.
Well, and
I agree.
initially when we started this show, I was of the mindset that so many people, like I was kind of the mindset that everybody was like us, and I have been humbled and educated by so many listeners that have written into us. Some still working on AQ right now, and not even, barely have done the spider wing, like a guild on our server, Unity. The other day when we were doing PvP, we recalled to Ironforge, and I saw this guild just military like run to the flight path and take off, and I was like, "Oh, dude, awesome!" And I was like cheering them on. I didn't know what they were doing, but then one of their members messaged me, and they said they just got buffed and they're going to kill KT for the first time. They had got him to 10% the try before. Unfortunately, he messaged me later. They got him down to like 5k health and died.
Dang.
and wiped. And I mean, we only had like this last kill of KT. We only had like what it was 9 or 11 people still up at the end. So it's
I
definitely
don't
gets
even know if there was
chaotic.
that many. Someone
Yeah,
posted
I
a
think it was like
screenshot.
6
Yeah,
and
someone put
no
so
viewers.
yeah, so I think our Warcraft logs make it look like there were 11 people alive, but there's a screenshot of only 6 people being alive when everything was said and done. So I don't know if people died like
It's
right as it
less than
ended.
smooth.
Yeah, so KT, especially with the RNG that's involved in some of its mechanics, can be really difficult. But yeah, it feels good. Like it definitely is cool to be able to cheer them on and be like, yeah, getting KT down is sick. Like it's awesome. And I think that more bosses are gonna feel that way in classic TBC. People just need to be okay with that. That's what it comes down
Yeah.
to is it can be
Right.
aggravating to not kill bosses.
And
But it can be fun.
Yeah, and I just feel like I've been educated that there are way more people that are okay with being a raid tier behind than I had initially thought. I think a lot of people are chill, and this is kind of the game for us boomers, and so lots of them are just like want to sit back, have a beer, chat with some friends while they kill some bosses, and don't really want to go crazy hardcore. And so
I think there's gonna be a difference too, right? I don't want the bosses to be so hard that it increases the amount of time we have to spend raiding each week, right? Like, I definitely
Yeah.
don't want that. I don't want it to turn back to like vanilla where you're raiding 5 nights a week to try to clear content. Like, that's not what I want. And I think that they made it very clear that they were going to release pre-nerfed bosses, but they were also going to evaluate continuously and make sure that it wasn't too difficult or too hard that people couldn't even contact the excitement of finishing the boss.
Well, and see, I didn't raid in TBC, but to my understanding, the loot becomes more plentiful. Like you
Yeah.
get more loot per boss and less people in raid to take loot.
I was gonna say that coming back into raids is gonna feel a lot better. Whereas, like, I always felt like I would be behind if I missed out on a raid in Classic because it's like, okay, this one boss drops this one item 5% of the time. We kill it once a week. There's no other replacements for it. That's a huge problem. Is like these are the pants I'm supposed to wear, and there's no other pants available for me. So I
Right.
just have to kill it every week. There's
And you know it'll
15
drop that 1 week you're not there.
we got 15 warriors and we got one onslaught girdle dropping from rag every week, and it's like this is ridiculous. Like this whole thing is ridiculous. But in TBC, you can not raid phase 1, jump in phase 2, and you'll be able to pick up gear a lot easier. You'll be able to jump in with some PvP gear. It's gonna make raiding harder, but also more accessible to people. There's going to be a lot of guilds that are looking for people constantly, I think, just because of depending on the difficulty of content, people are going to be shifting up and down between guilds more often. Whereas in Classic, it's more like, man, I just need a guild that's got 40 people. Like that's my biggest requirement
Right.
is I need a guild with 40 people. How they do, I don't really care that much. Like, as long as we're doing enough.
Yeah, we'll try to
I don't know
sprinkle
if
in
we
really
ever
good
have
people.
40. Let's be real.
I mean, we have a couple times here in the last couple
A
of
couple
weeks,
times.
but usually 38, 39, right? But it's
Yeah, I think
getting easier
yeah,
though.
38, 39 is where you are, where you don't really wanna have too many people sitting. I think if you have a roster of, like, 45, then you normally go in with 40, but you gotta sit someone, like, every night.
Did we well, I mean, and just Nax has gotten easier. This week I don't remember, but the week before we didn't wipe on one boss the entire week. Did we
I
wipe
think it's the si
this week at all? We didn't wipe on the
we
last three
didn't
bosses, but did we
we
wipe at
We
all?
kind
didn't
of wiped on
wipe, but
Vesuvius.
we
We almost wiped on Vesuvius because
oh, mhm.
we couldn't get like,
Mind
the
control.
MC kept breaking for some reason, and we didn't wipe, we had just ran away and reset, but at that point, we had lost a lot of buffs, so our intention was to go to 4 Horsemen, and we just decided not to go to 4 Horsemen because of how many buffs we lost, so we didn't wipe. I think if we continued on our natural course, we would have wiped,
We did.
going to 4
We
Horsemen.
came very close to wiping multiple times.
We
Like
did.
Saf, I think we lost quite a few people. Which, by the way, can I bring up the BS that happened on Saf?
What did
Because
happen on Seth?
I was on an ice block, right? Hiding behind the ice block. Oh, blizzard right over my ice
Oh,
block. Like,
yeah,
what do you do at that point? You can't
that
do
did
anything. I
happen.
can't get out of the blizzard. I can't get from behind the ice block. And I was just like, just so sad.
That was definitely rough. We also did Lotheb for the first time, not world buffed.
Yeah, well, I think we're almost entirely unworld buffed or entirely unworld buffed, and we did Lotheb. It was a little shakier than normal, but it was super doable. So it was really glad to I was glad to see that we could do that as well too. I think
I don't
that
think we lost
merits
very many people.
well, I mean, we lost more than we normally do. We
Yeah.
lost like an additional handful, but we were totally fine doing Lotheb that way, which was good to see because it gives us merit to our new strategy, which is going A bomb to military to get 4 horsemen down, then to plague, then to spider, so that on Thursday we can just go in with Saffron and KT and clean that up like in no time. Because having to do the trash to 4 horsemen takes us as long as it takes to kill all 3 bosses that we leave, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it would help us a lot to do it that way. So it's definitely good.
Well, I kind of got us off topic. We
Yeah,
we
you did.
we were on the non-nerfed raid bosses. Now, something that Corpse mentioned to me. Do you think that non-nerfed raid bosses also means pre-nerf heroic dungeons?
Yeah, that is an interesting question, and I think kind of important. I honestly don't know based on what they said. Um, I don't know even what I want. I assume
Right.
I want the harder heroics, but once I actually get there, I'm not sure.
I feel like if they do the harder heroics, they make a lot more content inaccessible to certain people, right? I think by having easier heroics but harder raids kind of bridges that gap a little bit where it's like, "Oh, okay, I can't do the raids yet, but I can do the heroics to get gear to hopefully be able to do the raids." If you make the heroics too difficult, then I think you just see people not try. But I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe not.
No, I think it's important that they're doable to average players because you need that heroic gear to move into things like Karazhan. It's really good to have that gear coming in. And there's gonna be a lot of new players for TBC. There's gonna be people who aren't Nax geared. There's gonna be people who are re-rolling to like Shaman or Paladin who won't have Nax gear. So there are gonna be people who need that heroic gear. So yeah, I mean, we'll kind of see how that goes down, but they definitely don't mention heroics at all when they talk about the pre-nerf bosses. It's like it is very specifically talking about raid bosses.
Yeah.
All right, well let's get into another big one that people were talking about and was said like right off the bat. All paladins get all seals. Seal of blood coming to the alliance, and I'm kind of on the fence about this. Like, it's nice to have class differences, but I'm happy that it's just. I'm happy that it's in because I just didn't want to deal with major faction imbalance because people want to be red paladins.
Listen, I think that this is huge that they did this. I honestly didn't think they would, but I'm really
Yeah.
glad they did. And I think they have to look at, I mean, people in retail are still complaining about faction imbalance, right? And if you do it now, with especially what everybody knows about the seals, how many people would have jumped from Alliance to Horde? Getting that faction balance back would have been even more difficult, right? Once people go to Horde, they're not just going to come back just because, oh, okay, now they're balanced classes again, so I can go back to Alliance. No, they've developed those relationships and those communities on the Horde side, so they're going to stay there. And then I think you just continue to see that imbalance because people go play with their friends and their friends are playing Horde and they go do that. And so I think this was huge to help just future of classic expansions stay more balanced.
Yeah, I watched a great video with Jeff Kaplan before Burning Crusade came out, and he was talking about it. And he was talking about shamans and paladins, and he was saying how he wasn't sure whether or not they should put shamans and paladins on the other factions. But the problem that they were having is that every change they would make to a paladin or a shaman, they ended up trying to balance them based on each other. So if paladins got something new and exciting, they would need to put something new and exciting on shaman to keep them somewhat balanced. So that's why they wanted both sides to have paladins and shamans, because they didn't want to have these two classes need to be like designed off each other. They can just design paladin as paladin and shaman as shaman, and if people want to play it, they can play it. And I feel like it's the same way with these seals. So even back then, I think they had the same design philosophy, which is like there's no reason we should be trying to tune things for different factions within the same class. Like that whole thing is just crazy and ridiculous. So I'm glad they made that change. I'm also shocked they made that change because at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, you bring like 3 paladins to your raid and it's just like it's not such a big deal that non-paladins would want to jump ship to Horde, I feel like. But it is a big deal that if you're a paladin, you really want to be the worst paladin. Like
Right.
not so much. I mean, it's a bigger deal than picking the wrong race. If you're a human priest and you should be a dwarf priest in classic,
No.
I mean, it's kind of like whatever. It's annoying, but it's a much bigger deal to have these different seals. So I'm glad they did it. And I think it lines up with their design philosophy a lot.
And it's a bigger deal in PvP too. I mean, in raids, yeah, really good teams are probably only going to take one ret pally, one
Yeah.
prot pally and one holy pally. But, like in PvP, there'll be a lot of, just casual ret PvPers too. And so
Yep.
I
So
think it's
what
definitely
does
good
the
for
seal
that.
of blood do?
Well, and
I'm not a
I know
paladin,
it does
okay?
more
Get this
damage.
nonsense out of here.
I know it does like quite a bit more damage than its alliance counterpart, seal. And there were people talking about it. I think they were talking about it on Countdown to Crusade. They were talking about you might, with the way they've changed seal twisting, you might have been able to get closer to Seal of Blood with like down ranking the other seal. But I don't really understand Paladin, so I'm not gonna repeat it here and say something wrong. But yeah, that was on the last episode of Countdown to Crusade, and it was the one with Willie. It was pretty good.
Countdown to classic, you mean? Or
Countdown
oh
to
no.
Crusade. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was Countdown to Classic before. Now it's Countdown to Crusade. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
like
it's good.
I'm pretty sure they both do just like a similar thing. I think they like lose health and you do more damage, but I think
I think Seal
Seal
of
Blood was
Blood
just
is
better.
I think it's the one that makes you lose health, and that's one of the
No,
biggest reason.
I think they
Really?
both make you lose health.
Yeah, well, neither of us know. Someday
I
we'll
could be
have a
crazy.
paladin on.
Maybe I'm wrong. Um yeah. They're I mean, yeah. No, you're right. No, they don't both make you lose health. Seal Blood makes you lose health. And then Seal of Vengeance is the alliance one. I mean, it's just better. Who cares what paladins do?
Well, but yeah, so everybody will have the same tools, and I think that kind of works out. But that leaves things open to other things changing. Now, everybody's been complaining about the drums. Now, they didn't say specifically what they're going to do to drums, but they did address that they want to ensure that drums are not needed by 4 people in each 5-man party in the raid. They came out and said that. I don't know that they have specific plans for how they're going to make that happen. My guess is that they're going to put a debuff like sated, and it's going to make it so you can't really stack them. So one leather worker in a
Yeah,
party is going to be good.
yeah. I mean, that would be the most simple fix, is that instead of it being a personal cooldown on the item, it's just a debuff. And if you get affected by the drums of war, then you get a debuff altogether, as opposed to it being a personal cooldown um, on the item itself. So I think that would be the most ideal way to change it. I have a feeling that's how they'll end up doing it. And then you just need your 5 leather workers, which I think is much more reasonable to ask. And then when you look at the actual percentage of increased damage, you could also just not bring the drum of war. Like, yeah, you want 1 per group probably if they did make that change, but the actual DPS increase from having 4 drums of war was really not that huge to begin with. So the DPS increase from having 1 drum of war is going to be even smaller. So
Right.
like you could probably
It's a
even
good
just get
point.
away with not having it at all, and the parses aren't going to be like insanely different.
Do you think if they change it where you can only use one and it's a debuff, that they increase the extra damage that it does?
I hope not. I don't think they would do that. I'd hope they wouldn't do that. Like, it's already like good. It's just such a silly item that I think people don't want to depend on.
Right.
So I hope they leave everything the same, except you just have 1 per group per whatever the cooldown is, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Well,
Uh,
and one other suggestion that I'd heard made by other people was that you just make the drums purchasable and only leather workers can make them, but anyone can use them. And that would be a way to fix it
Okay.
also. I don't know that I want that in my rotation for everything, but I mean, it would be better than having to be a leather worker just to have drums.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, you the biggest problem is you don't want people to have to be leather workers, which is kind of ridiculous. But I also think that 4 people taking turns to use their drums to have a permanent buff is also ridiculous. I think
Mhm.
it's just like a silly mechanic to have. Um, I don't think
Which I'm
it's
sure
not a
wasn't
big deal either way.
intended when they put them out there,
Right.
right? I don't think they thought, "Oh, this is gonna make it so everybody has to do leatherworking."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because they didn't think people were gonna min max like this. It's just like, oh,
Right.
here's a cool thing that leather workers could do, but it's just like, oh, well, that's objectively better than
Right.
not doing it. So we're all gonna do it. I don't think they intended for that kind of behavior.
And
Um,
I think professions are more important in TBC than they have been in Classic, so wasting one of your professions on leatherworking when you don't need it seems, I don't know, more,
It
I
seems
guess.
less fun.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
do you want to be a warrior going into the Burning Crusade with blacksmithing and leatherworking as your 2 professions? Like, you
right.
don't. You don't want to do that, but that's what everyone's gonna end up doing, or something similar to it. So I think that yeah, it's you don't want people to be leather workers, especially when you have jewel crafting coming out. You have all these new, you want people to have gathering professions other than bots. So it just makes
Definitely.
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, and so like these types of changes, leave other changes open. I was really surprised that we didn't get one mention of dual spec when it's been talked about so widely, not just on this podcast, but on other YouTube channels, other podcasts. It's been talked about pretty hardcore as of late, and they didn't even address it like no, or we're thinking about it, or they didn't even bring it up.
Yeah, I wonder if this means it's a guaranteed no, or if they don't have an answer for it yet. Because I could see them
Right.
not having an answer for it yet. It has only just recently been, I think, getting super popular, where like everyone is kind of clamoring about
Not just
dual
Bob.
spec, not just Bob this time.
I've been asking
Um,
for it since the beginning.
yeah, so they might just not have an answer, and they're not going to bring up something they don't have an answer for. Uh, At the same
Or they're
time,
just ignoring it and they're just like, "I'm not gonna say no because I know how much hate we'll get if I
well, the
just."
answer might be so obviously no to them that they don't even feel like bringing it up because it just didn't come out in TVC, and they just might be like, "No,
Right.
this is not coming out." Like, you'll get it probably with Wrath TVC or Wrath Classic. They'll probably launch it immediately, on launch because, like, they'll just do a later patch like normal, but they might just not have any intention at all for TVC to have dual spec.
Right.
Yep. And
I
then,
mean, to be fair, even you're gonna have a PvP character and a PvE character, so how necessary is it for you now, going into TBC, to even
well,
have dual spec?
I'd love to PvP with both, but I'm doing those two different characters because there isn't dual spec, so like
No,
I'm
but you're doing those 2
planning
different
this.
characters because you have a main warrior right now, and a main warrior isn't gonna be as effective in PvE no matter what spec you are.
Yeah, I mean, true, but I'm also preparing to have two different characters, whereas I might just let my warrior sit for a long time if we were moving in, and I could do, SL in PvP on the lock, and then Destro in PvE on the lock. Like, I might just do that for a while. The warrior would sit there, and I wouldn't work him up for a bit, but
Yeah,
To be
because of this
fair,
change.
not having dual spec is going to make you get to play 2 characters instead of only having to play 1.
that's the opposite of that. I think that is like that's like some like psycho framing of like I'm not forcing you to do it. You get to do it.
You get to do it.
You're welcome. That's like I'm probably like if there's dual spec, I'm probably like almost definitely only gonna play my warrior maybe. But without dual spec, it's like maybe I should be getting my mage up like in the first week also, so that I have that to PvP with as well too. Because not just the cost. I don't really even care about the cost of respecking. I care about the convenience of having a secondary spec that I can just swap to back and forth. So the
Even if you
convenience of
still
dual
had to
spec,
pay
even
each
if I had
time
to
you
pay the
swap,
50 gold every
it's like,
time,
it's fine.
exactly, the functionality of dual spec is just so good. Like, having
That's
to
true.
swap back and forth is just so annoying. So, I
I
mean,
do
I
think
want
dual
dual spec
spec
just
makes world PvP more fun, right? Because you can
yeah.
transition to a PvP spec when you're in the world and not have to worry as much about being just this stupid spec that you're just gonna get demolished on every time
Yeah,
somebody tries to gank
Exactly.
you.
and PvP plays such a big role in the Burning Crusade that not always being PvP spec when you're out in the world is like very it's a detriment. You're gonna be running into people not just who are PvP spec, who are also wearing full resilience gear. So like
Right.
it's gonna be absolutely ridiculous if you're a PvEer going out in the world and fighting these people.
Yeah, it is, and it just it improves stuff. Even if you just like PvE, I mean, you could be, say, a tank that switches to a DPS spec when only one tank's needed, or you could be a healer that, on some fights you need less healing, so you switch over to a DPS spec. It could have pretty big PvE implications also.
Yeah, my warrior is going to if I'm warrior tanking, which is what it looks like I'll be doing. There are two different specs that I would want to be using depending on the fight. And dual spec lets you do that. However, you could argue that that is sort of like an advantage in rating that we didn't have, where you
Right.
could say like, okay, now all of our priests are going to do this spec, and now all of our warlocks should be this spec for this fight, and that kind of gets into the retail thing I never liked, where I don't know if it's like this now, even though I did play recently, but when I was playing in like Warlords of Draenor, it was super common. You would bring these like books of disappearing or something that like let you respec in raid, and like you were supposed to respec in raid all the time depending on the fight. Oh, this fight use these talents, this fight use these talents, and I hated that because I always felt like my character was just always changing. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
use this AoE spell. Like, I think the big thing with I was playing a warlock at the time, they have like Cataclysm, I think, which is just like a big AoE spell, and like I had to give up another spell I liked, and I was like, I don't want to use this one. I know it's better on this fight, but like I don't want to have all these extra talents and spells that I don't actually like on my class, but you just had to do it.
Well,
And
and
I mean, in that case, don't you think that it could backfire on us where if you're in PvE, you have to have these 2 PvE specs. So you don't even get your PvP PvE spec all the time because you need these 2 PvE specs
Yeah.
for this raid,
That's
right?
what I would worry about. That would be my only concern, I think, with the dual spec is people min-maxing that hard on PvE will make PvE a little less fun.
Yeah.
And then I'd be sitting there going like, "Are you effing kidding me right now?" It's like I just got dual spec, and you're gonna tell me I have to have 2 different DPS? What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Well, you need your AoE and your single target spec.
Right?
Like, you just need to have it. And
But
then you're gonna be clamoring for a triple spec, like, come on.
another really good thing about dual spec is just that it changes all of your buttons. Like you have 2 different sets of buttons because you prioritize different things in different specs, and so every time I switch over to Mortal Strike, I have to change around about 6 different things, and I have to I have to relearn Mortal Strike every time. Like the worst is when you respec and you forget to like learn Bloodthirst, level
Yeah,
5, and
yeah.
you're like, what is going on with my DPS tonight? It's just, but like. You have to change so much, and it just changes for you. It's just nice and seamless, and really, honestly, I think the reason they put it into Wrath was because of glyphs. If I'm being quite honest, because those had to change, and those would change with your spec, and so I wonder if that wasn't the whole reason they actually first put it in.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the convenience of just being able to hit respec and then the different spec is really nice. It's undeniably the nicest part. And you're right. I mean, I've definitely had a raid night or two where I had rank 1 bloodthirst going in just cuz like you don't even think
What?
about it. You have to retrain every time. But it's not as big of a deal because bloodthirst it's like the main damage that changes. You're not losing that much DPS as a warrior by not retraining. I feel like I could be crazy, but I feel like they changed this sometime during Classic because I used to have to relearn like Ice Barrier when I respect on my mage, but I don't need to do that anymore. When
I
I
feel like
respect,
now once you've learned it, you don't have to relearn it anymore.
I think that is only for casters or something because I had to
Oh,
do that on
maybe.
my mage before. On my warrior, I do still have to relearn Bloodthirst and Mortal Strike every time.
Really?
Bloodthirst, Shield Slam, and Mortal Strike, I have to relearn every single time, no matter what. Um,
See, I
but on my
used to have
mage,
to
it's different.
relearn Holy Nova, but I don't. If I switch specs now, I don't have to relearn Holy
I
Nova
wonder if
anymore.
they changed it for casters for some reason. Because like for warriors, again, like those spells, the majority of what they do is not changing by rank. It's just like the bonus damage changes a little bit by rank. So that could be why. But yeah, it does seem it is different than it used to be. I don't know.
I I will say that if I respec like I've respect B for just a slight different Fury DPS spec, and in that case I did not have to relearn Bloodthirst. It was weird, but I think it's
Oh,
because I just spec'd right back into it.
yeah.
So like since like it's almost like it didn't wipe my learning each time until I
Yeah,
took
until
enough
you
points to where I couldn't get Bloodthirst.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That could be part of it. I we just don't know the rules. We'll have to look up the rules.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
hopefully they
somebody in
change
chat said
that.
that they have to relearn Nature's Grasp every time, so that takes our caster theory out the window.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I mean, it's clunky. That's
Yeah, it's
basically
the
what I
point
was
is,
getting
the
down
fact
to.
that we don't even know is like another like we don't know. And that comes into play being the fact that we don't respect that often either because of the way that it's set up right now.
So another thing that was announced to us is there will be no gold cap. There were a lot of people clamoring for gold caps, but there is not going to be one. How do you guys feel about this?
Gold caps are stupid. Like I get it. I get that it fixes a problem, but it's the same thing with like not being able to bring your gear over. Like
Right.
it's a huge advantage to have a bunch of gear that other people don't have. Like gold cap is silly because like the inflation is going to come back. Getting rid of a bunch of gold from the game. First of all, they're just going to trade it to other accounts or other characters that the gold cap won't hit. And then
Right.
even if you got rid of all of the gold in the game right now, inflation is gonna be back to, like, the insano amount in no time anyway. Like, a
Yeah.
Band-Aid fix, like having no gold cap is not what needs to happen. I think they need to roll out fresh TBC servers, which they didn't announce, which was odd.
Yeah.
But they need fresh TBC servers for the people who want a fresh experience. But other than that, if we're bringing our characters, I don't see any reason why a rich person shouldn't be able to bring the gold they made.
Yeah, I think if they want an idea for how to actually get the gold out of the game, I think that gold sinks are the way to go. And I think a way they could do that super easy is they just allow you to buy the items that were that were cards in the TCG card game that would give you mounts, different things that made your character light up, different, like, basically all things that don't give you an advantage in the game. They're cosmetic type of things, but they could put a really hefty gold price tag on that, and then that could suck gold out of the economy.
Yeah, I just don't see. So you had mentioned that before, I think not on the podcast, but I don't see a scenario. It would be nice, like, okay, you have the spectral tiger, it costs 100,000 gold, and now you have this awesome gold sink where like people are just feeding this gold into the spectral tiger that costs
But then it's
100,000
not a
gold.
special tiger anymore.
Well,
I mean, a
that's
hundred
true.
K would be a pretty special
Uh,
tiger.
yeah. Just so we're clear, I was saying spectral tiger.
Oh.
Just so just to clarify,
I
it
like
is a
special tiger.
you're correct though. It won't be as special. But the biggest problem is I don't see them doing that and not at the same time implementing the classic token so that they are basically microtransactioning any of these cosmetic items because they'll basically say, okay, yeah, you can you can dress up in a buyable tuxedo or something. I don't know. Here you go. It's a buyable tuxedo that you can dress up in. It costs 50,000 gold. Oh, and by the way, for $20, you can buy a couple, 1,000 gold from
Right.
us
This
directly with this
was
WoW token.
this was exactly where I was going with this. I don't know if the episode's out, but I accidentally got on the end of Countdown to Crusade yesterday. I don't know if it's published yet, but you'll see me come in, and I don't even realize we're recording an episode until the end. I just thought I'd gotten a message from Josh or a ping that said we're all just chatting, and I just jumped into chat. But I did mention that exact thing. Yep, I first talked about the cards, and then they could sneakily throw the token in, and then they're getting the microtransactions that they want without actually having it available on the Blizzard store.
Yeah. This is a long conversation to have,
Right.
but I think in a scenario where you have a large percentage of the player base purchasing gold, which I think you see in Nax right now, I think that the WoW token makes sense to have either way if you have a large percentage of people purchasing gold.
Yeah.
Because like one, you don't want people to be banned for something that like an everyday person is participating in, and then two, you want to cut off that supply to bots and farmers anyway. You want them to be safely purchasing gold once they're not getting scammed. You want less of that money going to botters because that decreases the population of botters as well too if they can't make as much money. There's a lot of reasons to implement the token. Um, that's a much better solution than just capping gold to like 10,000 per account or per
Right.
character. I don't see how that doesn't fix anything. Like it just doesn't it just doesn't fix anything to do that. So TBC fresh servers, I think sort of fix that. It kind of helps to fix that a little bit if that's the experience you want to have where like no one's getting their flying mount right away. But what I don't want is there to just be like, okay, now everyone's limited to 2 flying mounts per account. Like, what does that even make it? How does that even make a difference? Like, you bring
Right.
10K gold over, and only 2 of your characters can have their epic flying right away. Like, that doesn't fix any problems.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. There's still a lot to find out. One thing is they did address the Netherwhelp pet.
Yeah,
So, you know, they said that they're going to try and look back at your account's old licenses and try to give you the pets that you got for the collector's edition back then. And so I thought that was interesting, and I'm trying to remember what all I have on this account like going
I definitely
forward.
don't. I think I started getting collector's editions with Wrath, so I think that I'm out of luck here. Um, but I mean, I don't know. If classic TBC is supposed to be a different game, I would be okay if they want to try to generate some revenue selling. TBC is free. I don't have a problem with them selling a collector's edition for classic TBC separately. If
Yeah,
you want to pay $30 and get all the stuff that you got with the original collector's edition, I prefer that more than just rewarding the people who bought the collector's edition like way back.
I
I
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a new game. This is classic, not regular TBC. So I don't feel like they should give people that played it and bought it 10 years ago something additional.
I mean, if they want to give it to people who got it back in the day, but then also give the option for people to upgrade, I think that's okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if I like someone having something exclusive that I don't like because I didn't buy something back in
10
the
years
day
ago.
like this. Or I don't want there to be some crazy black market now for TBC collector's editions from back in the day that are going on eBay for $500 so you can get your Netherwhelp pet. Because I'm gonna think about getting it. All right. I don't want someone to have something I don't have access to.
Well, and for me, the main account that I use now is not the account that has my old characters on it. Like it's it's got like it's got my discipline priest from Cataclysm, and that's it. And
I'm sure a
then
lot of people are like that. A lot of
yeah.
people probably are using different Blizzard accounts because the BattleNet transfer didn't even happen yet. I don't think back in TBC. So like everyone's on like a weirdo different account than they originally had back in the day. So as long as they open this up for purchase, which honestly it would surprise the heck out of me if they do the work to bring the Netherwhelp pet to people who own the collector's editions, but not also let us purchase it.
Right.
I think it's more likely they do that. I don't have a problem with that at all. To give something free to someone who's like been a supporter of the game for a long time, that's totally fine. But just give me an option to buy it, please.
Well, speaking of options to buy, let's get into a real controversial one. And every account, one per account, only on TBC servers is going to be allowed one level 58 boost. You get a level 30 mount because it's no longer a level 40 mount. So you get your slow mount, no professions, and level 58. Boom.
Well, let's first talk about why this isn't that horrible of a thing. And I think one of the reasons is that a lot of the really important profession cooldowns and things like that are not gated. So in Classic, level 35, you can have artists at anything, so you can do anything in the game. You only have to hit 35. But in TBC, like if you want to be a transmute specialist and like transmute stuff every day, you have to be level 68 in order to be a transmute specialist. So you can't just like boost on a bunch of accounts and have like a bunch of people who are transmuting. You'd actually have to level those characters further. You don't get ahead an insane amount by being 58. There's not a huge benefit that you can like cheese your way into like making a bunch of gold by doing this. Um,
Yeah.
but being able to boost a character is pretty crazy, right? Like I think that taking a step back, if you're talking about a no changes classic experience, to them allowing paid boosts, that is very crazy.
I mean, to be fair though, people were boosting anyways. So you either put that in the hands of Blizzard or you put that in the hands of the community. It's gonna happen.
I just always still think it's cooler when the community does it though, because it's an in-game business venture. And like I get my what why am I saying Darth Maul? My oh my gosh, DM buffs. Why Dire
The
Maul?
Dire Maul?
I get my Dire Maul buffs now from the same person every time because he runs an awesome business. I get a summon there, and then I don't have to leave the group. He just moves me to the group that gets to go in. It's like completely seamless, safe. I go to him every time. I actually wait. I'll only go to someone else if I have to do it last minute because he just runs such a good service, and I just think it's cool when the services are in game. I don't really like Blizzard taking over it, but at least it's only one character per account. And for me personally, I was pretty excited. I was like, "Oh, what 58 am I going to get?" But like at the same time, you're going to get people that don't know how to play their class at all, and boosts like that when a game is this complicated can kind of be confusing, and people might not know how to play. But at the same time, I mean, I play with level 60s in some GDKPs, and like they don't know how to play either. I mean, they
Yeah,
were
I
all
mean, it's not
boosted
like
too.
they're not getting boosted with a ton of gear. They're not getting boosted to 70, so they still have 12 levels that they have to do themselves or pay in game to get boosted. And you're going to be able to spot those people pretty quickly, right? Like you're not going to recruit somebody that you think knows what they're doing, and
Yeah,
they're not
I
going to
think
get very far.
there is a big difference between paying for gold for a boost and then paying Blizzard money for a boost. I think that's like
Right.
a very different thing. I think the more stuff you can pay with gold, the better. Like I wish I could hire contractors for my house with gold as opposed to real money, Like the more I can buy with WoW gold, the cooler of a community exists.
Yeah.
I think for the health of the game, this is totally fine. Like I have friends who are experienced WoW players who played a lot in TBC who will come back, and the fact that they can just boost to 58 means they're going to be playing the game as opposed to like quitting when they hit level 40. This
Right.
will open up. I mean, not to like go crazy into like how people raid log, but I think that a lot of people do raid log in Classic, which I think is actually healthier for the game because back in the day, you might just quit, but if you can just
For sure.
come raid, there's you have a much higher population of people who are buying goods on the auction house. You have a much larger population of guilds that can go out and raid, and allowing these people who didn't play Classic to come play Burning Crusade Classic right away, basically at where everyone else is going to be. I think it's just healthy for the game to
Yeah,
begin
I
with.
agree.
So I support it for that reason. I actually don't even know what I'm going to use a 58 boost on. I think it's cool, but I think it's probably just going to end up being a character I just end up not playing at all. I think like it's
To
a
be fair, this
cool,
can't be used. I don't know if we said this, but it can't be used on Blood Elves or Draenei. So you can't
right?
boost a
Yep.
Shaman on Alliance, and you can't boost a Paladin on Horde.
Yep.
Which is good. That's totally
Yeah,
that keeps things fair. Yeah, so I mean, I have 2 accounts, so, like, I could just boost 2 58s, which is overwhelming. It's a little bit overwhelming, I guess. I'm gonna have, like, 4 level 58 to 60s come maybe even 5 come, the Burning Crusade, which is gonna be a little overwhelming. But, yeah, I think the negatives that come with a 58 boost, like, we all feel bad, like, "Grr, this isn't classic." I think it's hard to outweigh our feelings toward that to how much healthier the game can be if we have a lot more people in and playing at this level and not just like, well, people are doing Scarlet Monastery because they're trying to catch up to everybody. I don't think that's reasonable. So I think
Well,
I think
and
this is a good idea for the game.
yeah, and some people they there are a lot there are people that just don't like classic. Like they didn't like vanilla. They didn't like the leveling process. I know a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't like the leveling process. They especially PvPers, like they want to get to the end, they want to start moving and grooving. And so for the people that just want to play TBC, this is nice, and I'm glad that it's only one per account. Like it could get a little bit
yeah,
crazy if it
yeah.
wasn't.
I mean, I think of people that are coming back, like Yip was saying, people that are coming back just to play TBC, and this actually allows them to do that. Maybe they do know how to play that class in
Yeah.
TBC, but they don't want to grind, especially with how long it's going to take to get from 1 to 70. Kind of like we saw in Classic, a lot of the population dropped off around 30 or 40
Yeah.
because they were just like, whatever, I don't want to put in this time. And if they can get that at 58 and kind of just do the Burning Crusade leveling, then I think that that's more realistic to get people to come in and play that didn't play Classic.
You will have a much larger, especially in the Burning Crusade, there's gonna be a much larger casual population because
Mhm.
you can be you can be like a high-end PvPer, and all you gotta do is play like 10 games a week. You can log in and do your dailies. There's so much more to do. Heroics are daily. There's so much more to do on a daily basis where you can be casual, and if you're not rating at all, you can still play like 8 hours a day of World of Warcraft. Whereas in Classic, it's like I don't blame raid loggers anymore because there's not much to do anymore. You can make your own fun. I still love Classic, but I can't fault anyone for not like logging in every day of the week. You get your buffs, you will log out, and you're waiting. You don't want to respec back and forth. PvP is
Right.
fun, but there's no rewards for it. So
I think that's
there,
why so many people have so many alts, is because
yeah,
there wasn't a ton to do on your main character that was enjoyable. I mean, you could go do things, you could go farm and stuff, but who really likes to do that?
Well, and then every time that I respect to Mortal Strike for the weekend, I felt like obligated, like I had to play as much as possible because of that. And then therefore it made it less fun. Like was it like, hey, let's jump on and just do a couple BGs? It was like, hey, we need to play for 8 hours today. Like
yeah.
it made
Or
it less
worse,
fun.
I respect, and now I feel guilty I'm not PvPing right now, you know? Like,
I
it's
know.
like, now it's ruining my other activities, like, I can't go watch a show because it's like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be trying to rank," and, like, I respect, I already paid the gold, like
Yeah, it definitely puts a weird anxiety on me when I respec the warrior in between raids. It's not a good one. It usually ends up in me not playing it and feeling kind of bad about spending the gold to respec. It's a really weird thing. I don't know if anybody else experiences that, but I do. But it's a little weird. I'm excited because I want to kind of want to have a paladin, but I don't really want to work one up. Like I'm working up a rogue, like that's pretty easy. Working up a
Yeah.
paladin, not as much. And if anybody wants a warrior that didn't have one, now's the time because that's another one that's hard to work up too. But
Yeah, I mean, it's undeniably healthy for the game, like, it's as much as it feels bad, and I want people to have to, like, go AFK a week in Maradon. It's like, who cares? Like, if the health of the game can improve, then that's really all that matters. Because we want Classic to be a self-sufficient game where they're putting resource and time and money into. So the more people playing, the better. And
yeah, you
I
kind of
don't think this is a money grab. Like I know I've read some people saying like, "Oh, this is like a money grab because you're gonna have to pay and everyone can only get one." But to me, it's more just like a barrier to entry. They don't want everyone to just get free characters. But the people who do like this game and want to play it, you can get your character. And I think that that is a-okay to reward the people who really like this game.
yeah, I kind
Agreed.
of talked myself out of the whole people don't know how to play their class because I was like, oh yeah, but they don't know how to play their class if they got boosted all the way up too,
Yeah,
like in
exactly.
game. And so I was kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, never mind. But
When Bingo hit 60, I was like, "Oh my god, he doesn't know how to do dungeons." Like, he doesn't know he doesn't know the
My
tempo of the game.
yeah, my druid hit 60 and I was like, what does this do?
yeah, but at least you had experience playing a druid prior. I know it was 15 years ago in vanilla, and then you were priest after that for the rest of the time, but you still had a little experience. But yeah, it's I think it's probably a good thing. There's still lots of the stuff we talk about, guys. Our opinion could change next week or the weeks after.
Yep.
Like it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to digest. We've got to hear other people's points we haven't even thought of. There'll be plenty of those. So none of this is set in stone. It's
And
gonna be a
it's hard to
lot.
be upset because they're doing so many things that they clearly are carefully considering, like allowing both factions to have the same seals for paladins, the fact that they're gating content behind these phases. There are things that they're doing that they obviously care about this game now and how they're going to approach it. So like when they do something like the 58, it's hard to be upset because it's like one classic or TBC just got announced, so I'm stoked. They're doing phased content. I'm stoked about that. Like there's so many things to be stoked about. It's hard to immediately find things to be unhappy about because so much is good. It's hard to just be like, oh well, how dare they allow mounting at 30? Like I don't know.
Like, does that really make it or break
Yeah.
it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the bounce at 30. It makes things a lot better. Like just I really enjoy the leveling process after you get your first mount. I really don't enjoy it as like nearly as much before I get the mount. I don't know if that's just me or it's just my personal thing, but I really don't like Walking Simulator 2006, and that's what a lot of the leveling is, going like getting up to 40.
He also hated it when I was a druid and I got like
Travel
cat
form.
form
A
and I
cat
was
form
just
too.
faster than him and he'd
Yeah,
be
cat
like,
form, then
okay, you're
travel
just gonna
form.
get there and you're not gonna be able to do anything once you get there.
It's
Like
like
I'm
you can at
still
least just run
gonna go
circles around
faster.
me. Oh man, it was kind of like I got my mount before Mel on our original characters in Classic, and I'd put my character on follow, and then I'd just like follow her on the mount, and it used to drive her nuts.
Yeah, because it comes into my screen and it like pushes. Oh, so annoying.
Oh man, but so the last thing on my list, I don't know if I missed anything. I might have. There was so much stuff to get in, but you can right now, as we speak, opt into the beta. There'll be a link at the there'll be a link in the show notes, so you can opt into the beta now. I opted in on my two different accounts. I kind of got a little hint from a little birdie that I'm on the first wave of beta. So I'm hoping that that is true, and I'm hoping to be able to tell you guys more about what's going on in beta as we move forward.
Are you interested in the beta? Like, so I played the classic beta and I thought that was really useful and fun. But with the TBC beta, I'm more skeptical about like how much I want to put into it because it's literally just the leveling, right? Like, there's not much you're gonna be able to do. You're not gonna be able to do much at 60. So then it's like, are you gonna go through the whole leveling experience to 70 and then see what's up, or like? Because to me, like you're getting the entire expansion if you're gonna be playing the beta with TBC.
I'm kind of just gonna test stuff out. I mean, honestly, I don't usually play a whole ton of betas. It's not really my thing, but I feel because we're doing the show now, I feel an obligation to kind of do that and kind of give people some information that I gather early. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's the way I feel about it. So I'll definitely play it if they are nice enough to give me an invite, and I will try and pass that on to you guys. All right, well, let's close out the show with a little bit of discussion. And all the really discussion is like it could go anywhere you want. Like just like what are your final thoughts about BlizzCon?
Not seeing Jeff Kaplan at the opening ceremony was super weird.
Oh yeah,
Just throwing that out there.
without Overwatch. And
Yeah, I
Overwatch
feel like
basically going into a content lull too.
yeah, kind of a waiting period for Overwatch, which is kind of a bummer for them. I feel like Classic has kind of overtaken everything, which makes me, I don't know, scared slash wonder what's new coming because a lot of the things announced are classic versions of things, right? Classic Diablo 2 ish, right? Remastered Diablo 2, same thing. Classic TBC. Like the big announcements were remakes of games that they did before. And I just wonder what Blizzard has to offer in the
Yo,
future.
when's the new IP coming out? Like,
Right.
there's no like what Overwatch is the last new IP. right? There wasn't
Yeah,
anything else, and they
they
didn't even
announced,
talk
like,
Oh,
about it in the
the
and
update
arcade.
ceremony.
They
the
announced
arcade.
arcade,
Well, they announced
but the
arcade
arcade is,
last
like
year, but now
but
it's
the
going to
arcade
be
is,
out.
like, classic. It's, like,
Yeah.
remastered games that they had before, and that's my issue is what is their new coming? Because they can't rely on old content for the foreseeable future, and if they do, then Blizzard's just done, and they're just going to continue to re-release things that they did fantastically 10 years ago, instead of coming up with a new big thing, and that's what worries me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we're all
mean,
gonna be playing Diablo 2 and the Burning Crusade, and, like, we're just gonna be playing that for the rest of our lives. There's no
Right,
one is ever gonna create anything new that is enjoyable.
as good.
The real WoW killer was WoW all along. There's no there's just no new content. I mean, I think most game companies are facing the same struggle. I mean, Google just shut down their game company, Stadia, and it's like I think a lot of game companies are struggling. Like Cyberpunk came out and that got this mixed review. I think most game companies are struggling with the cost of new games compared to how many people are going to play them when they can get away with just releasing the Burning Crusade or just releasing D2 remastered. The
And don't
amount
get
of
me wrong,
money.
I'm really excited about the Burning Crusade Classic. That's not I just wanted to see, I guess, a little bit more initiative from Blizzard to bring us something the new best thing.
Yeah, this is also like COVID year and things like that. So it is a rough year overall. I mean, I was super happy with getting more classic than I was expecting out of BlizzCon. That was exciting for sure. Um, so I mean, I was really happy with this BlizzCon. I thought it was really fun to watch. I mean, obviously we were doing like our little guild party, but I actually thought the online was done really well. It was enjoyable to watch. We got a lot of like um really good Q&A stuff, like the roundtable discussions were pretty personal and open, which was nice, and we got a lot of really cool content out of BlizzCon this year. So I'm happy with how BlizzCon went. I think it's hard to expect much on like the COVID after BlizzCon that's
Right.
exclusively online. But yeah, I mean, I agree. We do need to see some more stuff, but I was happy with the classic content that came out. Like very, very happy with how much they gave us because I was pretty afraid
I
and I
was
was pretty
afraid.
certain. I thought we were gonna get an announcement in the opening, and that's it. Like I thought we are gonna get
For
we
sure.
are making we are making Blizz or on TBC Classic more details in the
Details to come
future.
Yep,
soon.
they're like,
Exactly.
and for all you weirdos out there, we got some more classic for you. Like,
Yeah. The fact we got answers about like the drums of war and that they're gonna try to change them,
Right.
like that sort of stuff, I was not expecting at all.
definitely,
So I was
definitely.
very happy.
Well, and speaking of
It was
the,
cool to see sorry, just real fast.
oh,
It
you're
was
fine.
cool to see content creators involved a little bit as well, right? Where content creators were kind of running panels a little bit. And I know they do this some in live BlizzCon, but I think it was a little even more accessible to people, and they kind of took advantage of that, which I think was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. But we were talking about you're talking about the Q&A, and there's a couple things I guess I didn't mention. So they are planning to bring back layers for the launch of TBC. They basically they're trying to say that you're not going to be in a queue. Is basically what that is their highest priority, and I think that's a good thing. Going back to when COVID first hit and queues on our server went up to 3 and 4 hours during prime time.
Yeah, we saw up to 7 hours when ZG got released, and that was like right when they fixed it. They were like, "Okay, we got to we've got to do something because everyone's gonna quit with these insane queues." But I think maybe that's like something I'm disappointed in is that they do briefly mention about they talk about trying to handle TBC when it opens and on launch, but I'm a little bit worried about how they're going to handle these insanely large server populations over time as well too because small there's limited resources and like I just hope they have a strong plan of how they're going to handle that. Like I don't want to have to spend all my time in instances just because the world is so crowded and overpopulated. So I hope they have their eyes set on more than just launch and not having queues. I want there to be an actual playable outland zone that where we're going to be I want to be able to farm like moats. Like I just want to be
Yeah,
able to farm
moats.
moats. And if you can't, and like
Right.
there's only a handful of spots for every moat type. And if things continue the way they are now, it's gonna be like, when we were PvPing last night, we're going to Winterfall Village, and there's just always someone there. 100% of the
Right.
time, there is someone there farming. Every moat spot will be like that if we don't have some sort of like better layering system
Yeah,
implemented for the entire Outland.
and just with the population of servers so high, there just needs to be enough raw materials for the demand, and there's way less raw materials in dungeons. Like Classic, there was a lot of places to go get raw materials from dungeons. There's way less of that. If maybe there might not be any, I'm not even sure, but I know there's way less, and so we just need enough resources to survive on our server, and
Yeah.
that could definitely be a problem. Another thing that
Well, one
they
thing I wanted to bring
oh,
up real
sorry, go
fast
ahead.
on that aspect is that one thing they didn't address, or at least I didn't hear them address, was the very imbalanced servers currently. So if you're on a 99% Horde server, you transfer to TBC on a 99% Horde server. And I know there's a lot of people that don't want to do that. They
Yeah.
want the more balanced effects, and I don't think they said anything, and they could in the future, but said anything as to how they are going to manage that and if they are going to help get those servers balanced again.
Yeah, because I mean it's a hard thing because if you look at Ironforge.pro and Classic, right now, the faction balance is 53% to 47%, and but then you look at the servers themselves, and there's some there's it looks like a lot of the servers are pretty good balanced, like at least in 50s and 40s, but there are some that are just really messed up, and I think they might just need to do a case by case thing going forward. I'm not really sure how they make people happy with that. Like it's gonna be a tough path for them
Also,
for sure.
I want to bring up, as I'm looking at the Q&A, to make a correction earlier. I said they likely won't have a like white main TBC and a white main classic era, but they actually clarify in the Q&A that they are exactly doing it like that,
Yeah.
which almost guarantees 100% that classic era servers will be absolutely dead and unplayable, and it will
Just
just be a
weird.
museum. It'll just be a museum for your character to live on so that you can
Yeah.
go back and see it. It will not be a playable server where people are still doing content. Maybe like one guild on every server, but
Right.
that's kind of a shame reading that, unfortunately, but that is how they're going to be doing it.
I think they probably will try to do some merging in the
Yeah.
future, but we'll just have to see. They also did say that summoning stones will be available at launch, so now you and one other friend can summon 3 other people to your dungeon to jump
Which,
in.
by the way, we learned in a podcast earlier that actually came out in like the pre-patch. So, like, of course, that is going to be involved.
Yep, yep.
And that's kind of
There.
how they
I'm
answered it, I
glad.
think, was like, well, yeah, that was available before.
Yeah, I
So
think no
we're
one knew.
definitely
I think based on our talk last time, I think just no one knows when this stuff came out. Like
right.
we talked in circles about summoning sets. When is it just like a list that you can put your name on? Like what is
Dude, I mean,
what
there's
are
so
summoning?
much. Yeah, there's so much like information across the different sites that are just a little off. It's hard, man.
Yeah,
It's so hard. But
it's awesome.
and one thing, just the last thing I think I missed was currently there are no plans for classic fresh servers. They didn't say really anything about TBC fresh servers, but
Yeah.
classic fresh servers, they are definitely have it on their on their agenda, but it's something they're going to look at after a successful TBC launch and a stable one. And so it's something you could look
Which I think
forward to
makes sense.
months down the road. I think it makes complete sense. Really, honestly, just the classic era servers don't make sense to me personally, but I don't know. Maybe we'll find out that I was completely wrong and that those servers are thriving and people are. I just can't see wanting to do anything besides just get your full best in slot and then BG. Like, it'd be like having a level 60 twink, like That's
I
the
mean,
only
to be
thing I could see
fair,
cool.
a guild could all opt in to clone their characters on a classic fresh server, and then they could all start alts, and they could see, they could do their own type of season where all of the content is already available, and but they're all starting from level 1, and they could see, when they could
Oh,
get to go into Nax and when it was, viable, and maybe do BWL and not do MC and see how hard BWL is without MC gear. And like there are
or
things
even
that you
start
can
doing
do.
like you know how the MC runs they did it with 40 shaman, 40 paladins.
Right.
They could do fun little mini game challenges like that. I guess yeah, that would be kind of cool. I
That
just
makes
don't
me too
know.
that makes me too sad. Like, just hearing that makes me too sad. Like, I would hope that in an MMO, people don't need to, like, try that hard to have fun on their own. Like, I think Blizzard
But if
needs to
that's what
be.
they want, though, and they just want to play classic, they don't want to play Burning Crusade, they can make it fun on their own, and they're like everything is there and they have the capability to do that. And yeah, maybe Blizzard will see these things being done and decide to do something on their own, but they're kind of not putting any restrictions on what you can do right now. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can do that. I just
I'm
want
not
to
going to
see
do
something
that.
from I just want to see something from Blizzard. Like, I mean, it's the same thing with like any Iron Man leveling mode or the hardcore leveling mode. I want to
Right.
see game modes like that implemented into games as opposed to everyone just having to like find their own fun out of it. Cuz like, I mean, it's an MMO. It's not like a sandbox game where you're supposed to make your own game types. I would hope that Blizzard gets on this stuff pretty quickly to put out what people want to do, and have fun with it. But
But I'm glad their focus is on TBC because
yeah,
I think
exactly,
that
exactly. They don't
right
have the
now that's what they
resources.
need.
Yeah, and they did the polling. They know how many people might be interested in fresh servers or when they might be interested in fresh servers. So they're basing whatever they're doing off data. At least it appears. So that's good. That's good at least.
Yep. So, any final last thoughts before we close it up?
That's it for now. We'll hopefully see more info as we go on, and I'm sure there's a few more points we'll be talking about going forward that we skimmed over this time. But I'm super excited. TBC is going to be awesome. This is sort of like I don't want to say revitalized our guild, but I'm already seeing people like revitalized with WoW, just having the announcement already out and things like that. So it's
For
pretty
sure.
exciting to see.
Definitely, definitely. And for me, it was just nice to feel like us WoW Classic people were part of the Blizzard and BlizzCon family and not just a footnote of, hey, go play your little fun mini game. It felt good to be respected in that manner, and they gave me way more than I expected, and I am extremely grateful to Blizzard for just putting on a show and answering a lot of stuff for us in the WoW Classic community. So thank you so much for that. Closing up the show, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can also follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. We still want your WoW stories or anything you just want to say to us. You can send those emails to wcrpodcast@gmail.com. We are now going to be streaming on YouTube. It's youtube.com/mash those buttons. But of course, you can always find us on our main platforms, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google. You could find us pretty much anywhere you can get podcasts, and we appreciate that. We also appreciate reviews, so Apple Podcast reviews or reviews at warcraftradio.com/directory. All right, guys, I think that's it. Where can we find you, Ryan?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Cognitive Pit or on YouTube, youtube.com/Cognitive Pit. I am putting out some gold making guides. So if you're re-rolling or leveling a new character on a new server for TBC, I'm going to show you how you can make some gold on your way up leveling so that you're prepared going into TBC or maybe have your epic mount like right when you hit 60.
Did you submit your storyboard thing to the competition?
I did, probably because it disses Blizzard. They had no interest in it. That'd probably be the biggest.
Oh man, I totally
What are you
forgot
gonna do?
to mention that the third place movie with
Which was the first place.
with White Mane as the dog was the funniest thing. I was laughing forever, and every time I thought about it, I would giggle. It was the funniest thing ever. I forgot to mention that, but
Yeah, a lot of the community stuff's really awesome. That's like
yeah,
one of the
Yeah.
best things about Blizzard and people who are just like really into Blizzard stuff.
yeah, it was super
For sure.
cool. And Mel, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at MelOverwatch. That's all.
And you can find me on Twitter and everything I do at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
And so, just talking to the stream, chat was kind of quiet, so we're not going to do an after show today, but maybe next Friday. Tune in. See you guys.
Yeah, maybe you can earn an after show next time.